This really started to have a rail passenger transportation here in Roanoke in 2009 when Governor Kane, toward the end of his term, started the Lynchburg Amtrak train, which has grown from, they anticipated about 50,000 passengers to close to 200,000 passengers a year. I think over 500 passengers in the last 4 years. The ridership has shown there's a real market in Western Virginia for Amtrak. So then 2 years later, after working with Kevin and working with Thelma, we decided we needed some money to have a connector bus. So 2011, we got the funding for a connector bus. So if you want to take the Amtrak train from Roanoke, take your car to the Civic Center, leave it there as long as you want, pay $4, and you can connect to the Amtrak train that goes all the way to Boston. And on the weekends, it goes from Blacksburg to Christiansburg, Salem, and Roanoke, and on through Bedford to Lynchburg. That has been two things. One, a tremendous convenience to people to get to the Amtrak train in Lynchburg. But the other reason is it shows a market. Amtrak needed to have proof that there is a market. And indeed, this bus has grown dramatically in terms of ridership, and so we now have a proof positive there's a market to bring Amtrak here to Roanoke. And then this past year, I want to give a tremendous thanks to our governor and his leadership with the historic transportation bill that passed the General Assembly this year, without which we would not have the funds to bring Amtrak to Western Virginia. This was historic, and like most compromises, there was something in it for everybody to hate. But it was enough in it for everybody to embrace as well on a bipartisan basis. So thank you, Governor, for coming to Roanoke, and thank you for your leadership in this historic transportation bill that passed the General Assembly this year. This today is truly historic. It's the first time since 1978 or 9 or thereabouts, it's been over 30 years, since Roanoke has had rail passenger transportation. No, it's not going to start today, but today is a very important step, next step in the right direction to bring Amtrak here to Southwest Virginia. And let me tell you, it's not just going to come to Roanoke only, but in the next few years it's going on to the New River Valley, to Christiansburg, to Radford, eventually down to Bristol. Yeah, that's the hope. Can I guarantee it? No, but we got to keep fighting. That's the whole point. We got to keep fighting for this. And likewise, at some point in the future, we'll go from Roanoke to Virginia Beach, Roanoke to Richmond on Amtrak. Wouldn't that be great? So thank you all for being here. And again, I want to thank the governor for his being here. And I want to thank all of the so many people, Norfolk Southern, the Commonwealth, the city of Roanoke, and everybody who's played such an important role in making the day possible. Thank you all so very, very much.
I want to comment first. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to tell you this, for the people who have driven from Lynchburg, understand what I'm going to say. In the next few years, this is going to assist your economy in a great way. The city of Lynchburg and the surrounding areas really has seen a change since we've had our train service. We expected good things. We got great things as a result. I have the opportunity to travel up through the Northeast many times on the train. It is consistently full, and it is a wonderful way to travel. You know, bringing intercity passenger rail service back to Roanoke will require more infrastructure, track improvements, a new train station, a new platform, a place to service the train, and a place to store the train. But work is already underway, and DRPT has funded, and Norfolk Southern is currently conducting a capacity study of the rail lines between the US 29 corridor and Roanoke, and the conceptual design of a station platform and track improvements to creek conduit that runs underneath the proposed railroad station. These two efforts will serve as our guide in the development of a project list, estimated cost, and the contract negotiations. The train turnaround will be here near my left, near the shops, and the pickup in the passenger area will be stored overnight to our right, near the museums. This will take, as Senator Edwards said, 3 to 4 years to accomplish. But I look forward to a day when we will have this governor back to cut the ribbon on the new rail passenger service to Lynchburg and on up to the Northeast.
I think all of you know that Norfolk Southern has a long, long history with Roanoke, all the way back to the days when it was Big Lick. The former N&W was headquartered here, as most of you know, actually in those two buildings right there. And we used to build steam locomotives right down there. You may have heard the whistle at the shop a few minutes ago. Some of the best steam locomotives in the world. There are a few of them right up there at the museum, and Bed Fitzpatrick over here is selling discount tickets after this event. So it's always great to come back and be part of Roanoke, and we're particularly proud to play a role today in starting a new chapter in the Star City's history as we support VDRPT, I always have to get that right, to extend passenger service from Lynchburg on over to Roanoke. And as Thelma mentioned, freight is what we do. It's at the core of our business, but we do understand the importance of passenger service to cities like Roanoke, and we're working very hard to make sure that we can find out what network upgrades are needed to support the passenger service and then get them done.
Proud to be here today, proud to be representing Amtrak, America's Railroad, and proud to be looking forward to service starting here in just a short while. I will mention a couple of years ago, I dropped in with my colleague Jay MacArthur to see Thelma and Kevin in their office, and we wanted to go by and talk a little bit about the Lynchburg service, which we had just started. It was going gangbusters, much better than we had even thought it would do. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming Norfolk service extension, which they were working on. And after we got through with that, Kevin said, I want to show you something else. Come into my office here. And we went in, there was a big table, and Thelma and Kevin said, our next goal is to go to Roanoke. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I wish all the states that we partnered with had that kind of visioning and that kind of boldness. And that's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to Roanoke. We're going to bring our trains down here, and we're going to make a difference in terms of both the community and in terms of the transportation options available to you. You can go virtually anywhere from Roanoke now on an Amtrak train. And I would just say as well that being a partner with Amtrak also has its benefits. Here in Virginia, we're proud to be more than just a transportation company. We spent almost $100 million last year in goods and services that we procured from businesses here in Virginia. We have almost 1,000 employees living in Virginia. And last year, they earned close to $73 million in wages, which they've spent right here in the Virginia economy. Last year, Amtrak carried over 31 million passengers in the United States. I like to remind people, if we were an airline, we'd be the 5th largest airline in the United States. And here in Virginia, we carried over 1.5 million passengers, and it's growing. And it will grow when we come to Roanoke.
Welcome, Governor McDonnell and Thelma and Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Wick Moorman, Mr. McHugh, and Delegate Head. And I also want to again recognize my colleagues from Roanoke City Council who are here, Vice Mayor Rosen, Mr. Ferris, Mr. Bestpitch. I'm not sure whether the others are here, but let me mention Elder Lee, Mrs. Price, and Dr. Trinkle. And I want to ask you to join me in thanking and recognizing my colleagues on Roanoke City Council. For the last several years, they've recognized that this should be, that bringing the rail passenger train to Roanoke should be the #1 legislative priority and economic development priority for our city. Thank you to my colleagues on Roanoke City Council. You are to be commended for your foresight and persistence on that. And a special thanks also to Governor McDonnell and to Thelma Drake, to the Amtrak folks, and to Norfolk Southern, Senator Newman, and the folks from Lynchburg, Rex Hammond, and the other folks who are here from Lynchburg. This is a tremendous accomplishment for our Commonwealth, for the Roanoke Valley, and our Star City. And I, too, want to sincerely thank the governor for his leadership on this issue. And, of course, his greatest accomplishment in the legacy of Bob McDonnell as governor of Virginia will be that he and the majority of the members of the General Assembly of Virginia forged this transportation funding compromise. It was not an easy or pretty thing to see altogether, but it came out well. And I would say, Governor, that not since the days of Jerry Baliles in the 1980s has Virginia seen a governor and a General Assembly do what they should do and put together a funding package for Virginia's future and our transportation needs in the future. Back in those days, after Jerry Baliles was the governor, we know here in Roanoke we could drive on a 4-lane arterial highway to the North Carolina line and hit a 2-lane road in North Carolina. But I can tell you, having just come back from the beach in North Carolina a month ago, that they have a highway system down there now second to none. We are surely behind our competitor state. They have construction projects, highway construction projects, which means jobs, highway construction jobs throughout that state. And it also has been important for the economic development of that state. And folks, we here in Virginia do have some catching up to do. And I want to commend our governor again and our General Assembly for putting together the package that will see that Virginia is now competitive in air, rail, and transportation, air, rail, and highways here in Virginia. And now I also want to say thank you, Governor, because you and Thelma and Kevin and all the others, Senator Edwards, have seen fit to make a part of the comprehensive transportation package for Virginia the need for passenger rail service. We've heard about it being extended to Norfolk, and now it's from to Lynchburg, and now it's coming to Roanoke. So it's an historic time for Roanoke. Not since 1979 that has the passenger rail service come through our city, and the Roanokers, all Roanokers, I can tell you, are excited about the prospect of the passenger service coming back. I'm now to introduce Governor McDonnell. I thought I might give some historic perspective to that introduction. I've relied on my, for my historic information on two most reliable sources, Wikipedia and Bev Fitzpatrick. I'm advised that the first train came right along through here in Roanoke, in Big Lick, Virginia in 1852. And the crossroads right over here was formed in 1882, and that's when Big Lick became known as Roanoke. And now in 2013, we're here to have the announcement of the return of passenger rail service to Roanoke. Joseph Johnson, Virginia's 32nd governor, was the governor in 1852. William E. Cameron, our 39th governor, was the governor in 1882 when the crossroads was formed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the 71st governor of Virginia, Bob McDonnell, is here to announce that is here because he is the governor that has arranged the financial package to bring passenger rail service back to Roanoke. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to, on this very occasion, Governor, on the occasion of the governor's visit to the Star City, to present to him our highest honor, the key to the city of Roanoke. And I'm pleased now to present to you the governor of Virginia, Robert F. McDonnell.
That's great, David. Thank you, Mayor. That was very warm remarks. I appreciate that very much. It really is a big day, and it's a long way from Big Lick to today. To be able to get the incredible progress that's been made in the Star City. I see a lot of friends out here from the business community and the legal community and the sheriff and many others, delegates and all the assembled members of the podium that all deserve a share of the credit for making this vision happen. I remember, Mayor, we were trying to trump up a little support for this bill back in the end of January, early February, and we had little rallies around the state, and I was not able to make it to Roanoke because of the high winds that day, you recall. So I had to do the very unusual thing of actually speaking at a rally here in Roanoke by telephone. And I don't know how you hook that thing up there, but what I remember is that sound of wind through the phone, which is a very ominous sound. But I remember speaking for just a few minutes, and I don't know how many people you had here, but it sounded like half the city of Roanoke being here, cheering on the transportation bill, knowing that someone out of that may come a restoration of Amtrak service. And so for you and John Edwards in particular, and all the leaders that have fought for this for a very long time now, a decade plus, to make it part of your strategic transportation vision for the Star City, I want to say thank you. The scriptures say, you know, though the vision tarry, it will surely come. And you have kept the faith, Mayor and John and others, to make sure that this day they would come. And I want to thank all the business leaders in particular for your help. Many people deserve the credit. You've said nice things, Mayor, but really it's a team effort. This bill passed with 44 Republicans and 43 Democrats. I mean, it just doesn't get any more bipartisan than that. It was almost evenly split in the House and the Senate. Everybody knew that the problem was so significant that we could not pass this buck on to some other governor. And the critical mass just came this year. Even being an election year, people understood that for the good of the future of our state, this had to happen. And so for these leaders that are on the podium, Joe McHugh from Amtrak, I got to ride on that train from Richmond to Norfolk. First time that's been done in 34 years. We did that, 35 years, excuse me. Just did that a few months ago. And of course, Wick Mormon from Norfolk Southern with that beautiful new train behind us. And I want to thank him also for his contributions to the economy of Roanoke. A number of the coal cars that are made just down the road here were bought by Norfolk Southern, a huge deal for the city, and I appreciate that and him helping us with this transportation package. I can't say enough good things about Thelma Drake. You've heard a lot of them already, but you know, to have a former congressman who really understands the workings of the federal government and a former state delegate choose to serve in this administration and take this position was really a stroke of incredibly good fortune, because she knows the state and federal law, set high goals, and was more than tenacious in pursuing those goals. And so, Thelma Drake, you get an immense amount of credit for having this day come to pass. Thanks for your great work. And the others that are here as well that worked hard for years to make this happen, I want to thank you. You know, in the State of the Commonwealth speech, this is my last session of the General Assembly, so I figured I didn't have much to lose, so I kind of gave him the American Express speech this year. I said, don't leave here without it. That is a transportation bill. And made a few calls from time to time, had a lot of meetings, and I want to give credit really to so many of the legislative leaders. They looked at what had not happened for 27 years. They looked at declining gas tax revenues, the maintenance deficit growing to $500 million, stealing money from construction and rail and things over the next couple of years. They saw the ability to create jobs go down. They saw Washington, Northern Virginia being ranked the most congested place in the country. Hampton Roads the 20th, and a real deficit in the ability to create infrastructure that attracts capital, that attracts jobs. And a bipartisan group of leaders came together and said, you know, we got to get this done. And so over a period of about 45 days, and you're right, it wasn't easy, and the point's not pretty, but that's the legislative process from time to time. There was extraordinary work between the legislative and executive branch in order to do what I think you hire people to do in Richmond, that is solve problems. Don't be partisan, turn down the rhetoric, find ways to look at what is ailing the quality of life of Virginians, and just solve problems and let things get better. And that's what people did in so many areas this year, in education and budget, in transportation and higher education. It was a very productive session. And I'm delighted to tell you that with the recently passed budget and the 6-year plan of the Virginia Department of Transportation, there is a 55% increase now in transportation funding over the next 6 years, and that up to about $17.5 billion. It's a huge amount of money that'll be available for road and rail and bridges and mass transit and our spaceport, and virtually every modality of transportation will get an increase, and it wouldn't have happened without a lot of people. And my time must be up. I'll be done in just a minute. But it wouldn't have happened with a lot of people not just tucking in their ego and saying, you know what, we just got to get this done. And I appreciate very much what the General Assembly accomplished this year. So now in 3 and 4 years, I won't be governor, but I'd love to come back and ride that first train if you'll invite me again, Wick and Joe. We will have ability to get on a train right here in Roanoke and go all the way to Boston or New York or wherever you want to go. And I think that's going to be terrific for the quality of life of the Star City. It's been a generation since we've been able to make these kinds of investments in the quality of life of the people of Virginia, and I'm delighted that a first fruit of that transportation bill getting passed was this announcement here today. So to all that have made this a reality, I want to say thank you. Roanoke is known for its quality of life anyway. It's a great place to come. I've been here numerous times as Attorney General. and Governor have made a lot of friends here. I love what you're doing with everything from the arts community to the center in the square to the promotion of small business and now the Amtrak service today, the regional participation of your chambers of commerce, working with everybody in the region to be able to do joint economic development. You've done things in a smart and productive way, and this announcement here today is just the next chapter in the history of this great city. So with that, I'd like to ask all the leaders to join me. We have a memorandum of agreement that we're going to sign between these partners, and when the ink is dry, we will be able to say, all aboard. Thank you very much.
What we're getting ready to execute is a memorandum of understanding between the Commonwealth of Virginia, Norfolk Southern, Amtrak, and the city of Roanoke, executed today, that evidences the intention of the parties to conduct necessary studies and to negotiate and enter into agreements for the completion of rail infrastructure improvements necessary to enhance passenger rail service in the Route 60 corridor in Virginia between Lynchburg and Roanoke. And it'll be signed by me as governor, Wick Moorman as CEO of Norfolk Southern, Joe McHugh as the VP of Government Affairs for Amtrak, and Mayor David Bowers for the city of Roanoke. And Thelma, you can watch.
I'm going to witness.
And witness. I think they're... John, you get my pen.